wanted to do this project for history about the First Amendment, but we don't really know anything about the First Amendment. If only there was someone who knew everything about it, someone who could help us. I can help you? Because I'm super First Amendment woman! Really? Yeah! That's amazing. I know.
The First Amendment could easily be considered the most important amendment in the U.S. Constitution, as it guarantees freedom of religion, speech, writing, and publishing, peaceful assembly, and the freedom to raise grievances with the government.
Yeah, I've heard a couple court cases about that, like Beard versus Banks. The argument date is March 27, 2006. The issue of Beard versus Banks is that Level 2 inmates at the long-term segregation unit are not allowed to receive magazines, newspapers, or photographs unless they relate to religion or the inmate's family. At the long-term segregation unit, there are two classifications of inmates. Level 1 is the less violent inmates, and Level 2 is the more violent inmates. Level 2 inmates have a lot of restrictions, such as restrictions to newspapers. The long-term segregation unit claims that they use these restrictions so that the Level 2 inmates will behave better. It is possible for a Level 2 inmate to go to Level 1 if they have been behaving well. It is possible that restrictions of newspapers to prisoners violate the First Amendment. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of the long-term segregation unit to prohibit Level 2 inmates of newspapers, photographs, and magazines. It was a 6-2 vote. Justice Alito did not take part in this case. I think that this does violate the First Amendment because prisoners are supposed to have access to public articles. I don't think that the Supreme Court is correct in this decision. Ronald Banks should be allowed to receive public articles from outside the long-term segregation unit, even though he is one of the most dangerous criminals in Pennsylvania.
I heard about the court case U.S. v. Eichmann. The case involved a challenge to the 1989 Flag Protection Act, which forbade the burning or other desecration of the American flag, while allowing burning as means of proper disposal of worn flags. The act was passed in response to the court's 1989 decision in Texas v. Johnson, which upheld flag burning as an act protected under the First Amendment. The defendants had burned American flags on the steps of the United States Capitol to protest American foreign and domestic policy. The defendants had been charged with flag desecration after the final decision was made.
Do you know of any other court cases?
Yeah, there's also Cutter versus Wilkinson. The argument date is March 21st, 2005. Ohio prisoners complain that they are not allowed to receive religious literature and to hold religious ceremonies. Some prisoners follow the religion of Astroturf, which is a religion that believes in many gods. One prisoner is a minister to a church in which believes in racial segregation. One is practicing witch, and another is a complete Satanist, which means that they are an infidel. They believe that the First Amendment, especially religion, and the RLUIPA, Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, have been violated. The RLUIPA is an act which furthers religious protection. It states that the government should not impose on a person's religious beliefs, assemblies, religious ceremonies, religious literature, etc. The Supreme Court voted 9-0 and stated that under the RLUIPA, prisoners are entitled to receive religious literature and the right to uphold religious ceremonies and services. I think that this particular court case does violate the First Amendment. People are allowed to act upon their own religions, even if those religions happen to be very uncommon and small. People in prison should still be allowed to uphold religious services and receive religious literature. Imposing on that definitely violates the First Amendment and the RLUIPA. Therefore, I agree with the Supreme Court on this particular case.
That's cool. Do you know of any others?
There's also Chaplinsky versus New Hampshire, Hazelwood versus Kohlmeyer, and FCC versus Fox Television Stations. Stop.